Welcome to episode 5 of the story of Jimmy Williams. Thank you for listening. It sounds like you were moving back to the US and we're wondering if you're going to go back to Japan, but then the Giants gave you a call, right?
Yes. And I didn't know. I know Christmas. Um, yeah, of course, at the off season, like we didn't finish playing until November, so I don't know remember when I signed, but I know I signed over the off season. The Giants took me in, and I was happy about that. And I said, "Can I get another shot to go get back on the major league roster?" And the manager at that time, my previous manager was Jim Davenport for 2 years in '71 and '72 before we went to Japan. And this time we had Rocky Bridges, which is a very popular manager and player back in the old days, and always had that chew of tobacco in his mouth. And he was a funny guy, but he was serious. I don't know what to say. He was my manager for 1975 season when we went to spring training in Casa Grande, Arizona, 1975.
And then in 1975, you were sent to AAA, right?
Yes, I was sent to Phoenix. I was sent to Phoenix AAA in the Pacific Coast League.
Was there anything memorable that happened that season?
Yeah, that season I remember it was a completely different team. It was only a few guys that I knew from 1975. A good friend of mine still to this day, Leon Brown there, and also I got to meet Larry Herndon, and which ended up catching the last out in the World Series for Detroit in 1984. He was our outfielder, and we had a lot of new guys on that team from '75. You know, so remember, what I do remember is I just had a tough time getting myself together hitting. So I ended up hitting around 255, 260, something like that. I had some good games here and there, but I wasn't consistent enough to get that average up where I was accustomed to doing in the past.
Right, right. And then at that point, was Mays still the center fielder for the Giants?
No, no, Mays was actually when I got my major league contract in October of '72. That was the same off season that Willie Mays got traded to the New York Mets,
I
and that's
see.
why we always joke about me taking Willie Mays' spot on the roster. Taking his place is a joke. On the roster is really I did get a spot, I got spot on the roster, and Willie Mays left the Giants. So Willie was already, I don't know where Willie was in '75, but I know he went to the Mets in '73.
Okay.
Yes.
That makes And so, following the 75 season, did you head to Mexico in 76?
Yeah, '75 was that fall. I got my release. Yeah, I got a nice Christmas present from the Giants. I got released in December, so I
Mm.
was a free agent for '76, and so I was trying to catch on somewhere, and I thought Mexico was a really good spot for a lot of players to go play, and I caught on in Mexico, and that was a memorable that was a good experience. But the biggest thing about Mexico was the travel, the food, the water. But I adapted very well in Mexico. It didn't bother me any. So I'm debating right to this day. I don't know where I started out, but I played for Monterrey. I played for Chihuahua, and I played for Juarez. I played for three different teams in Mexico in 1976. I
Wow.
finished the season out. Yeah, and and that's one of the difference in ball is knowing getting all your stats together. Like today, everybody knows your stats. You get stats easier, but but I think I had a decent season in Mexico in '76. But and we did a lot of traveling in Mexico because the good thing about where I played, Chihuahua, Monterrey, and Juarez was kind of like Juarez was a border town Chihuahua was like 3 hours inland, and Monterey I think was like inland too, but in the northern part, near the northeast section of Mexico, which is close to the border. And but the problem with that, they were great cities to play in, but the problem with that was the road trips were very long because we were up in
Mm.
on the northern side of Mexico, and we had to go as far as down to Yucatan, down to Merida, past Mexico City. So that was one of the biggest things about playing in Mexico was the
Wow.
travel. So that was 1976, and I'll never forget going to Tampico, Mexico, and they had train tracks that ran through the field from the right field line straight through the left center field. And I wasn't there for when they stopped the game, but there were times where the game was stopped for the train to come through, and that's amazing. And I still
Wow.
ask guys to this: is that really true? Did I really see that? 'Cause I know I saw it because I played in the outfield and the train tracks was in the field. And I was in Tampico, Mexico, and one of the greatest guys, greatest home run hitters, the Babe Ruth of Mexico, Hector Espino played there for a while too. So,
That
so
sounds like a
Mexico.
hazard out there.
Oh, it was. I mean, we were aware of it now. That's why when you, like I tell my kids today when I'm coaching, hey, you got to know your field. You got to check the field out. It's just like you might go into a field today and might have a little hole in it or something. They might have a water sprinkler thing out there somewhere. It's always you got to check the field out. But this here, that ball could hit that thing, and you could step on those spikes, and you. But I don't remember any instances where it was a problem of a safety hazard. And they had good crowds down there, and people loved the baseball in Mexico. So '76 was my year to play in Mexico.
Were the players mostly Americans, or were there Mexican players too?
Um, I don't know what the number was, but I think you could have, I don't know, 4, 6. There were more Americans on the team than in Japan. Japan was only a maximum of 2 foreign players, foreign meaning non-Japanese.
Okay.
So it could be a Dominican guy and a black guy, could be a Puerto Rican guy. They're going to count against you.
Hmm.
So the non-Japanese. Now they had something special going on with maybe Korean and Chinese and stuff like that. It was maybe something a little different than that. But it was only 2 foreign players at the time. Yeah,
Interesting. Interesting.
yeah.
And so, did the crowds in Mexico, how do they compare to the Japanese crowds?
Oh boy, nothing compares to the Japanese crowds, boy. And the Dominican crowds. But I don't know if I can tell you exactly how they are, but they're boisterous. I mean, they're into the game. It's not a quiet crowd. I don't think anywhere is really quiet. But you know that certain ones are more boisterous than others, and whereas in Japan they had a lot of noisemakers and stuff like that, right?
Right.
But Mexico, I just remember that they would haul out things. Well, I don't know what they're saying anyway, but I do know sometimes they might throw some things at you. They might throw some water balloons at you. They don't like what you're doing. But I don't remember any bad experiences in Mexico with the fans.
That's good.
So I was fine with Mexico.
And so, after that season, in 1977, did you play?
But that was a tough year for me because I couldn't catch on anywhere. I just came on back and I just went on and well, like I usually do, no matter what, if things are going good or bad, I came back and went to work
Right.
the U.S. Postal Service, and I'm usually there like within a week or a few days. I'm back to work. And so I went back to work and I didn't catch on anywhere, and I don't know how hard I even tried back then. I just thought maybe that might have been it, but I didn't play. But when the spring came around for '78, I heard about the Alexandria Dukes just across the water there in
Mhm.
Alexandria. I heard about a tryout, and I went over there and tried to see if I can catch on. And I did the routine things where they throw, they run you, everything, and then I did not. I didn't get taken in by the Alexandria Dukes at the time, but I did end up meeting some of the staff there. And one of my good friends today was named Mickey Bowers. He was a bonus baby with the Philadelphia Phillies back in the day, and also ended up being a minor league manager. And I got to talking with him, and I told him, my experience in baseball, and then that got me a second chance to a second look, so so to speak. So
Interesting.
actually, by people that does make a difference. So by talking with him, I got to sign with the Alexandria Dukes in 1978, and I had to get a leave of absence from my job, and which is always a little touch and go there. You got to do a lot of little paperwork and write letters and everything, and I was very fortunate and thankful that the U.S. Postal Service let me take a leave of absence, and it was so good that they were going to have a special day for me at the ballpark in Alexandria, on 4 Mile Run Avenue over there, and what happened is I broke my foot. I got hit a
Oh
ball
no.
off my foot, broke my foot, so that canceled that day and canceled me out for that uh, uh, season. So I did come back after that, but it canceled my Jimmy Williams Day at Alexandria, and I got to meet a lot of new friends. With most of those guys were local players, and that was very interesting, and I still a couple guys I still talk to today from that team. And we didn't make any playoffs, but it was the Carolina League, and that was one of the best Class A leagues that was in the United States at the time.
So
And
was
so
there
I
a lot
got
of
to play
travel?
there.
Were most of the teams based in Carolinas, or where did you guys travel
If
to?
I remember, of course, we were in Alexandria. I think we played in Salem, Virginia, which was the Pirates. We played in Peninsula, which was the Phillies, and I'm trying to remember Kinston, North Carolina, and I got the schedule right. I got the schedule right here, and I think it was 6 or 8 teams, but it was mostly Virginia and Carolina. We didn't go north. We only went south, and
Interesting.
but it was a tough little league, and I did make the headlines real fast. They gave me a big spread on the paper. Jimmy Williams for another shot, trying to return to the major leagues, and the first 2 games I drove in the winning run in my first 2 games.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that was out. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I always tell guys if you can hit, you can hit. And I mean, because I don't remember, I don't know how much prepping I did for this league. Because I knew I did the batting practice and everything, but I don't remember how much time was between me signing and playing. But I know we did some batting practice, of course, there. But I mean, I just used my skills and my what I do. And I hadn't played professional baseball for over for like 18 months or so.
Wow.
So, but they caught up with me a little bit, and I broke that foot. So it did get me a job the next year though in the Inter-American League. Going back to the Carolina League, that was a co-op team, and I think Seattle owned part of the team. Then the other ones were like independent players that played on a professional team that was
Interesting.
sanctioned by Major League Baseball. So it was a co-op team. Sometimes other teams will send a player there and to play for them, kind of like they do the Winter Instruction League. You had different organizations playing on the same team, and that's kind of I think what a co-op is. And but I think most of our players were independent players. So, and if a major league team wanted them, then of course they could sell them.
Right.
I
And
was
so
waiting for that. I was waiting for that day, but that day didn't. That come. But going and that season ended, and I made friends there, and I think we was in the in the second tier of the league there, but we played tough. And I also want to say about Mickey Mantle Jr.'s son was playing for that team. And
Right.
also the manager was Les Peden, who played back with. He did some kind of he had some history with Mickey Mantle's home run that he hit out of Griffith Stadium. I think he was the catcher when Mickey Mantle hit that great home run, that 500 and something foot home run. Les Peden. And, of course, he was an older guy when I met him, so I think he had been back with some real big time uh, old school players back in the day. So that was fun, to talk with him a little bit about that. And then I miss Mickey Mantle Jr., so I think I took his spot on the roster. So I got two spots. I got Willie Mays' spot on the roster, and I got Mickey Mantle Jr.'s son spot on the roster. And so finished that season out. We I got some friendships out of that, and I'm still talking to the assistant coach Mickey Bauer to this day, and that's one of the big things about sports. The camaraderie and meeting people, and and just winning friends, and different
Absolutely.
and from different cultures, because if I never played baseball, I might have only knew people in my neighborhood, my school, whatever. I don't know how much I would have ever traveled,
Right.
The only travel every travel I ever known was going to my grandpapa and grandmama's farm in South Carolina to work on that farm, Other than that, then I had some aunts that live in New York City and Brooklyn, so I did go there. So that might have been the extent of my travel, at least early in life. If it wasn't for pro baseball.
Right. Right. No,
Very good.
it's an amazing thing about sports and about baseball. And so you said that a lot of the guys on the Dukes were local for the most part, or
Yeah, yeah, there were some local guys on there, and I wish I had the roster out. But yeah, I know one guy used to commute all the way from Warrenton, Virginia. Yeah, but it was some local guys on there. I'm sure there were some guys from other states though. There were some guys that came in, but I just remember some guys like one guy from GW that played there, and I think another from Georgetown. But there were some local guys on it.
and so the next year
But it
you
was
played the Pan American League.
well, I played this new league, Bobby Maduro, which is he was a Cuban guy, and he was in charge of a lot of Latin American stuff for Cuba, and in Miami. He's from Miami, I believe. He's from Cuba, but he started this league. He's Major League Baseball sanctioned him to run this Inter-American League, and I was going to send you an article on that too. I found an article on it on how they expected this league to operate. It's going to be a 16 league, which only one team would have been in the States. That was the Miami Amigos. Then they had a team in the Dominican Republic, team in Puerto Rico, two teams in Venezuela. And the team I played for, I signed with the Panama Banqueros, with the Panama Bankers, and which was coached by a guy that I watched play ball a lot over here in Baltimore and Cleveland, Chico Simone. So he was my manager. So I signed up with them. Our spring training was in Jacksonville, Florida, and so that was slated to be a great league. They said they had plenty of money. I think each team had to put up like $50,000, and Major League Baseball did sanction it, and they made it AAA, although it wasn't actually AAA. But they had a lot of players that had played minor league ball, well, and big league ball, because David Johnson was the manager for the Miami Amigos. Of course, everybody knows, every baseball fan in this area knows David Johnson from the Orioles and the Mets and the Atlanta Braves. He was one of those three guys that 40 home runs with Hank Aaron and down there in Atlanta. So that was fun playing against him. And it was just a lot of names in it. Bobby Tolan was down there from the Cincinnati Reds, and there's so many names I can't even remember. But the league was the league. They said they had no problem with money and everything. Of course, the travel was going to be a big hiccup, but from what I read and what I didn't know until later on after I had played there. I didn't know all the speculations on it and everything. And they said there was no chance that this league was going to fold. And lo and behold, after like a month or so, the league ended up folding. It didn't fold. It contracted. I think that's the term. They lost two teams. Two teams dropped out, and we went with four teams. And I ended up moving from Panama. Panama was one of the teams that left. Okay,
Okay.
and the other team I think was gone. I can't remember the other team. Was it Puerto Rico? I know Maracaibo and Caracas was from Venezuela, but I think they were in good shape. They were in good shape. And but my team, Panama Banqueros, was folded up, and I ended up going. That's funny how communication goes. I don't know how these people do so much communicating back in those days, but of course they had Western Union, they had their ways. But I ended up going to signing with the Dominican team. I went from Panama to the Dominican team for 2 weeks and
Oh
played
wow.
there for a while. Yeah, before the league folded. And so I think the problem was transportation. Transportation was a big problem. The scheduling on the airplanes and stuff, and then the fans. It was a lot of city. I think a lot of people didn't like it. I don't think the Winter League people liked it. See, so those countries, their big thing is winter baseball. But I did hear this that they didn't want this league to succeed. In the summer.
Hmm.
And Bobby Maduro, the president of the league, he swore that this league was going to make it. And then when the two teams dropped out, he said we're going to come back stronger. In 1980, the league never came back. But it was a great league because it had the sanctioned by Major League Baseball. That was a big thing about it. But they had to foot the bills. Major League Baseball
Right.
wasn't footing the bill.
I mean,
If they were, I don't know how much. Hmm.
it sounds like the travel costs for the league must have been super high.
Oh my goodness! I mean, that I can only guess that. And we had good crowds. Our first night was like 20,000. And Joe
Wow.
DiMaggio threw out the first ball. And this Maracaibo, I think, Maracaibo, as they say, and Venezuela, I think they had the best attendance wise, and they had the biggest stadiums over there. I think our stadium, held over 10,000, but the other stadiums, I think all the other stadiums were larger. But I think we had 20,000. I might be misquoting that. I saw all the attendance, the capacities for all the stadiums, but I can't remember all of them. But it was enough for the league to survive. But they started out well, but as the league went on, I think attendance slacked down. I don't know what happened, what the politics were on it. But the league didn't survive, and it never came back. But I was able to hit 300, and I hit about 330 in that league, and it
Yeah.
was some good competition in that league. Yeah, I did get a buddy of mine, Glenn Harris. He was a catcher, and for a high school team I played against in Anacostia High School, he was the catcher for them, and he was also a big nemesis in the summer league ball. He played for our nemesis Gaslight, and he went down there and worked out with us, and he was a radio announcer and everything. And he made the team, but he decided that he was going to stay home. So that's just one little caveat in there about that. A friend from Washington, D.C. that went down. Matter of fact, I just saw him the other day, and he had a birthday just the other day. But he can always say that he played pro ball there, but he did come back and play for the Alexandria Dukes too. I heard he
Really?
played for the Alexandria Dukes. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so that was a year that kind of was exciting, and then the rug got pulled off from under us. So then that 79 just started my little time for playing foreign baseball, and I went back to Mexico in 1980, and I went back to baseball. Went to Mexico in 1981. So which was my last year playing baseball was 81. Um, and the ironic thing in 1980, I remember going after a fly ball in left center field, and I pulled two muscles. I pulled both leg muscles, but I only stayed out like a week, and I said I got to get back in here. But I was kind of I was hampered, but one buddy said, "Man, you pull that muscle going to first base." I said, "No, I pulled them two muscles going for a fly ball because I was hustling." Yeah. So
And
so
I guess,
Mexico, beg your pardon.
oh yeah, I think so. At that point, you were, I guess, mid 30s.
Oh shoot, yeah, that would make me shoot. Oh man, shoot. Yeah, it's like 34. I was like 33 years old back then. 35, 34, 35. So I made it to that that magic number. They always talk about players start to go downhill.
Right, right.
But I felt good right up until shoot my 40s playing ball around the area. But it's a big difference. But I felt good. I think I could have. I think I could have. I just need another situation. I might have could have. I might have could have made it back. I might have. Yeah. Who knows? Woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Right. I mean, you had played like probably over 1,000 games. Or that's a lot of wear and tear on the body.
Yeah. Yeah. It took me over 3,500. Well, it might be. I don't know how many plate appearances, but over 3,500 ABs to get a major league contract. It took me 3,500 ABs
Wow.
to get a. It took me 9 years to get that contract, and when I got it, they had a player strike.
And did that contract come with a pay raise?
You know what? I want to know what that was all about. Because it was short. It was. I think it only lasted like a week or two. We went to camp late. That's what it was. But I said I was going to look that up, but I think I did know, but mine escapes me on that. But we did go to camp though, and that was one of the reasons I decided to go to Japan because I thought maybe it was going to be a problem with me making the team, and and that's why you need an agent when you're doing some business with people. You need to know what the business is. If you don't know it, you need to get somebody to know. And I was worried about just making the team in spring training, which I mean, I had a major league contract. All you do is worry about just playing. And even
Right.
if it's in your back, just like Jackson over here in Baltimore, he came up and he went back. He started out in the minor leagues. They brought him up,
Right.
right? So that's the way I should have been thinking. That as long as I got the contract, it doesn't matter whether you break camp with the team. So that's always touch and go there because a lot of times you don't know what's going on with who's going to come up and go down, and then they get all these certain things. If you're there for a certain amount of days, you got to get this and that.
Right.
But I was thinking the wrong thing as far as not making the team. But the other problem was my buddy was over there, and I followed him over there. And it worked out monetarily wise for 2 years. It worked out because it would have been better than playing here in the States, I think, because I don't think the Giants didn't win. They could have called me up in '71. We played we played the Pirates in the playoffs. A few guys went up from Phoenix, and both those years I think I could have been called up, but it just didn't. The outfield was just kind of stayed kind of steady. You
Right.
know, they did a lot of exchanging on pitching and everything, and infielders, but the outfield I don't remember. Uh, the one big thing I knew was Dave Kingman went up because he had like close to 30 home runs and 99 RBIs. He went up from Phoenix in '71. Then Gary Maddox in '72, he went up. He had 9 home runs in 11 games. He was the Secretary of Defense. Ended up playing in the World Series for Philadelphia Phillies against the Orioles back in '83. So he was my teammate in Phoenix before he got called up. But it's just a lot of things. You can't think that just because didn't make the team in the spring that you're not going to get up there later.
Right.
I think you need some. I think you need that playing time. Depends on how much. Depends when you come out of spring training. If you got a lot of ABs and you're good to go, that's it's all about how they see you. I don't care even if you're doing well, they send you back a lot of
Right.
times. So it's all about numbers anyway, and what their plan is. They got a plan. Mm-hmm.
And that was when William McCovey was your locker mate, right?
Oh yeah, man. My little short time I was there, I got to play in a couple of spring training games. I remember playing against the Cubs, and I know we went on and played the Angels over in Palm Springs. I remember we played against Reggie Jackson, the Oakland A's, in Phoenix. Uh, shoot. So I was there for a while, and before I took off and went to Japan. Yeah.
And at that time, did players have agents, or was that is that more of a relatively new thing?
I never heard. I didn't hear like you hear today. Like,
Right.
man, I don't know, but why I say that is because there's a great football player that played for the New York Giants named Pat Summerall. He was a kicker for the Giants back in the '60s, '70s, and he had a company that was an agency that took care of your taxes, all your interviews and everything like that. And he wanted to be a business manager. And I turned it down. I
Hmm.
really didn't understand. So I said no. My contract was kind of small anyway, but that's why I was already in. I had already signed for that year. That was like in '73 in the spring, and they coached me in the spring about being my agent. And I think that's one of the worst mistakes I ever made. It's one of them. So I didn't sign with Pat Summerall and his organization. And, but they help you with all that kind of stuff for whatever the fee is. And I was
Interesting.
just thinking, yeah, and just didn't know that just didn't know how the system worked or should have worked.
Hmm. And so you played back in Mexico in 81 it was, right?
Yes,
Uh
I did. I went back to go again. Yeah, I was in Aguas Calientes. Yeah,
yeah.
way down in there.
And at that point did you know that you were getting close to being done, or what were you thinking back then? Do you remember?
Oh man, I thought I was close to being done. I knew that in '78, really. 70. This was '80, but and like the newspaper article says Jimmy he won't give up. He one more try and all that stuff. So that was true. You always thinking that you could do it. I mean, and
Right.
back in the day, I always remembered that Maury Wills. It took him like 9 years to get to the big leagues. It took Lou Johnson, another Dodger guy. It took him a long time to get to the big leagues. And every now and then you hear about one today. I think it's another guy that I think the Nationals got a guy up there now that took him. I mean, he played in the minor leagues double-digit years. So uh, it's it's that old cliche. You just don't give up. As long as you got the uniform on and somebody assign you, you got a shot.
Right.
And I, that's that. And that was the premise of that. I mean, I just love playing baseball too. I mean, and the thing about it, I just wasn't even thinking about, man, when they gonna call me up? When they gonna call me up unless somebody else says something about it?
Mhm.
So
I think that's a great thing. I think nowadays a lot of guys are all they care about is getting the call, and it's not even really about playing the game.
yeah, I mean, man. But man, they're playing that. That would have been I might have. I don't know. I'd have probably went in shock if they'd just like I did when I got that major league contract. I just saw it. I think I read it. No, nobody called me and say you on the major league roster. Man, today is all over Twitter. Is all over.
Right.
All over. I mean, it's all and who had MLB TV back then? I mean, oh my goodness, that's where I like to talk about the difference in baseball. It is everything has gone forward. There's a lot of new stuff going on. So I just kept going until I couldn't go anymore. So after that season '81, I just never went back again. You know, I started coaching. I was still, matter of fact, I kept playing. I mean, I'm like 35. Let me see, 80. That's 81. Shoot, I'm born in 46. So what's that? At 35 or so, right?
Right.
So, I mean, so I definitely, I know I still love the game because I was on like 6 teams around the area playing. From the work team, I played fast pitch, I played slow pitch. Then I played on 3 or 4 baseball teams, and
Wow.
which was the best one I ever played on. And Sandlot Ball was the Washington Black Sox, which is a team. It's mostly comprised of Howard University players and players from the area. Real good players. It was a real good league, real good league. And the coach of the team was a bird dog scout for the Cleveland Indians at the time.
Wow.
That, named Dopey Jones. Dopey Jones. Yeah, so I had some fun with that. And, we would always go to a tournament up in New Jersey, the Bridgeton tournament. I think we went up there 3 or 4 times. I think Willie Mays threw out the ball up there, but I didn't see that, but I saw it in the brochure that he threw out the first ball for another 2 games, 2 teams, not for ours. But and that's the first thing I heard about the clock. They had like the pitch clock up there and the batters clock, and those games are over within. And they were 9 inning games, but those games are over in 2 hours, man.
Wow.
And I look back at a lot of my games too, and a lot of those games were 9 innings, and they might score, they might score 10 runs, and the game was over in 2 hours, 10 minutes, 2:20 or less. Or even one. I had something that was 150. Played one game in Miami that one guy threw only 74 pitches. That game was over like an hour and a half. Hour and a half in Miami. Never
Wow.
forget that. I mean, 74 pitches.
You were ahead of your time with the pitch clock.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. I mean, I think they still have that tournament today. Yeah.